Hello and welcome. My name is Ashley and I work for the Life Enrichment Office here at Friendship Village of Kalamazoo. And this video is taken in part of our celebration here for Earth Day 2021, so thank you for participating. And this video was done in collaboration with the members of the Woods Committee and the Environmental and Sustainability Committee here at Friendship. So I hope you enjoy and learn lots about what our campus and our woods have to offer.
Well, our first stop is at the Memory Brick Trail here at Friendship Village, and I wanted to point out by the bench here a large grouping of mayaples. And the mayapple has a white blossom, which is not out yet. It'll be out probably in a couple of weeks, and that turns into a yellow fruit that is found under the leaves. Here's a very nice flower. This is a trillium. It's a large white or giant white trillium, and it's one of the first ones that comes out. Notice that it has a stalk before you get to the flower, and that stalk is significant in that there's about 38 or 39 species of trilliums that we find in the eastern US, and we have 4 species here, 2 of which have the stalks leading to the flower, and 2 of which are called sessile, meaning they don't have a stalk at all. You might just look at one that I see over here. This is a prairie trillium. The prairie trillium is one of the sessile ones, and you can see there's no stalk. This will open up into a reddish or purplish flower. Notice also it has a very speckled leaves. Of course, there's 3 leaves in all of these trilliums. The sessile ones that don't have a stalk tend to have a much more attractive leaf, while those that have stalks, and we'll see 2 others if we're lucky today, they have a much more attractive flower. Well, let's see what else we have here. On the other side, we have several plants together. This one is called a twin leaf for obvious reasons. It has a paired leaf, much like a butterfly leaf, and has a white flower. And it's mixed in here with Virginia bluebells, which, because of the cold weather, are still closed up, but they make a nice, colorful flower. Trout lily is here. This is a trout lily, so named because of the splotches on the leaf that look like the pattern on some fish, trout fish. It has a yellow lily-like flower when it comes up. I see a narrow leaf toothwort right here. That's a very good plant because it shows that the area has not been disturbed. There were other flowers, plants that I've seen around here. Oh, here's celandine poppy. It's in the poppy family, and it'll have a very nice yellow flower. I know that not far away we have, well, looks like everything's pretty well closed up now. Here's the narrow-leaf toothwort, the white flower that it has, we didn't see before. Again, over there. So that pretty well gives you an idea of some of the many flowers that will be right along this path. So we can move on. One of the plants that we have in the village woods that's very good ground cover is called myrtle. And the myrtle has a purple flower. You see quite a nice grouping here. It's an evergreen. In other words, it stays green all year round, and The purple flowers come up very early in the spring. This flower, this wildflower has a leaf that can't be missed. Unfortunately, the flower itself has passed. It's one of the earliest in the year, in the springtime. It's called yellow aconite or winter aconite. Beautiful yellow flower. So we don't see the flower anymore. We see some of the seed pods forming here. And we'll just have to wait till next spring to see the beautiful flower. While we're here, I noticed that one of our invasive plants that we're trying to get rid of in the village woods, it's called garlic mustard, and I'm going to pick this one. It comes up quite easily, and it's a plant we all should know because we're very actively trying to get rid of it from the woods. I can smell the garlic smell. It spreads very extensively and crowds out the kind of wildflowers we want to keep. Here we have more Virginia bluebells that now are partially open. While they're called bluebells, most of them are this same color blue, but very often you see pink ones. And I noticed there are some, like here, that appear more pink. And there's a mixed grouping. It's a very nice and rather delicate flower to have in our village woods. Here we have a real rarity in our woods. I've been looking for one for 2 years since I saw the last one. And this is the Dutchman's breeches. It looks like, just like the name says, it's related to another flower that's very similar, except it's more heart-shaped rather than looking like potaloons. That's squirrel corn, and the squirrel corn is a very close relative. And over here we have the wood anemone with its white flower. Very delicate leaves in the wood anemones. More May apples in the distance. They always form in colonies. And the fruit is eaten by squirrels and turtles and probably raccoons and skunks when they're ripe. Here we have flowering quince, which has been out for several weeks. It's got a beautiful red flower, and we have a number of them in different places along the trails. The flowering quince was planted here. It's not a wildflower, and it's just nice to have. Unfortunately, for most of the year, it won't have this nice red blossom, but we're lucky now. Here's a nice grouping of wildflower that is found throughout the village wood. It's called Pachysandra, but the group we have here is just very tight. It's a ground hugging plant with white flowers, and the flowers are seen as soon as the snow clears, and they'll be with us for most of all of the spring and much of the summer. So just something I wanted to point out. Here we have a celandine poppy, which will emerge. Looks like it's just starting to flower. And this is different than the lesser celandine that we talked about back there. This is actually a poppy, and it's a nice plant to have. As we continue over here is a plant called bloodroot. And the bloodroot has a very distinctive leaf with about half a dozen lobes. Here we go. And it has a white flower. The root actually has a liquid that is very red. And Native Americans, it is said, used to use the red for dye for their baskets and for clothing. I see more trout lily here. This is the plant we saw earlier that has a yellow lily-like flower when it blooms. Under the bush here we have another squill. It's called striped squill. It has little blue lines on a white flower. It's also known as cilia, which is the genus name. The blue flower that we have here is called a Siberian squill. And the Siberian squill is related to the cilia that we'll find elsewhere in the woods. It comes not from Siberia, but from Europe, and we tolerate it. And then another one, oh yes, is Dame's rocket, which looks very, oh my goodness. It's considered invasive, although I like seeing it. It looks very much like a can't think right now, but it's got 4 petals, and wherever we see it in the woods, we tend to pull it up. We have two more wildflowers to share. This is the first of the jack-in-the-pulpits that I've seen come up. Jack-in-the-pulpit, there are many throughout the woods, and this is an early one. The other one I wanted to point out is this, the third kind of trillium that we have, and as you can see, it's a sessile type, meaning that it does not have a stalk above the leaves. This is the flower, and the leaves, like others that are sessile, are very spotted. This is a yellow trillium. You have to take my word for it. I know the site, and that these will be have a yellow flower rather than red or white or other color. The trilliums that are sessile like this are often called toad shades, because apparently the leaf is big enough to hide a toad underneath. Probably happened at one time.
I am pleased to introduce the Village Woods Tree Finder. It is a map and a table that will help to locate any existing tree in the village woods that has been marked by tags to show name and other donor information. The map has trail marks A through M, which when used with listings in the table will direct a searcher to the specimen of interest. Easily found landmarks, such as numbered water faucets and path crossings, are listed in sequence in the table to further assist in locating any tree of interest. Trails have been marked on the map along the paved pathways, which when followed with a tag mark found in the table will lead you to the tree of interest. For example, Trail A starts at the Peace Garden, where a nearby tree tag marked A01 can be found. Follow along the A trail to its end at Faucet 6 to locate additional trees in the A sequence. The table is a 10-page Excel spreadsheet with more than 400 lines of data. Over 300 trees, along with identifying landmarks to assist in finding their location, are listed in the sequence they will be found in the woods. Trees of interest can easily be found in this table by using the Excel search command. For those not familiar with Excel, the table can be sorted to show items in tree identity, honoree, donor, or date columns in a sequence for easy finding. The second column, headed out of order tag mark, is a little used column for a few tags marked with numbers that would put them out of sequence. We expect it will not be needed much longer. Here we have the spreadsheet sorted to put names of trees in alphabetical order. If the name of the tree is one of the few things known about the tree that you are interested in, you may want to refer to this sorting to find your tree. Looking for a particular tree by honoree? Try the honoring sort. Looking for a particular tree by donor? Try the donor sort. Looking for a particular tree where the date is known? Try the date sort. A few things to be aware of. When a space is blank in the table, it is because that information is not on the tag. Also, a few of the memorial tags have disappeared since this table was developed, so although still shown in the table, they may not be found in the woods. Also, marks have been added to all tags, but despite periodic refreshment, some of those marks are wearing off and may not be apparent to the searcher. By following the sequence in the table and noting nearby trees and landmarks that are shown in the table and on the map, you will still be able to find the tree of interest without seeing those marks. Although still a work in progress, Tree Finder is usable now. We will be able to assist you in locating any tag tree in the village woods that you might be interested in.
All right, we're at the south gate, and the first tree that we see here is the burning bush. And there are a couple of things about this. The burning bush is so named because of the fanciful relationship to Moses and the messages that he was getting from his God through the medium of a bush which was burned but did not get consumed. This doesn't look like much now, but in the fall it'll be an absolute explosion of bright red color. And there are a good many of these on the campus here, but this is by far the largest one. You'll notice down at the bottom there is a number 2, and you'll see those numbers on a fair number of trees through the woods, and those refer to our list of special trees, which are described in a short monograph in the woods brochure. So this is an example of this, and you'll see this from time to time. This is called Euonymus alatus, and I mention that because we have another euonymus later on, which is also a burning bush, but not quite as exciting as this one. This is a very, very nice specimen, and it's worth a special trip to see in the fall of the year. The next tree that we want to see is going to be about 300 feet down this main road here. And you can see from the sign here, Bill Hunt found this tree growing, and nobody else realized it was here. It's an elm, and elms have become very scarce as the Dutch elm disease has cleared most of them out of the area. He and our resident forester rehabilitated this, and it does look like it's doing pretty well at this point. I see that there are leaves coming out at the top of the tree, so it's survived another winter, and I hope it'll survive many more because there aren't very many of its kind left. The elm tree was a very popular tree for planting in parks and college campuses and things of that sort, and it's been a substantial loss since the Dutch elm disease came. On my own college campus, they had many of these things growing, and they all died. And the ingenious fundraisers for the college harvested these trees and converted them into furniture and knickknacks, which they sell at exorbitant prices to dedicated alumni as the Penn State Elm Collection. That is all I have to say about elms. Here we have two metasequoias. This one here, and then on the other side of the street is another one over there. These are imported from China, and this is an amazing tree because it was first discovered as a fossil, and it wasn't known that there were any living specimens of this particular tree here. But later on they were found. The fossil was first discovered in the late 1930s, and in the early 1940s, scientists working in China began to see traces of trees that they thought might represent these fossils. Now the trees were found in the province of Hubei, which is in sort of the southeastern corner of the country of China, and on the Yangtze River. And Hubei is also infamous because its capital is Wuhan, which is the site of origin of the COVID virus. This tree, of course, has nothing to do with that. The tree occasioned quite a bit of interest. There's a lot of evidence of fossil evidence of this tree at various parts of the world, and when the tree was found to be actually growing, this invoked a great deal of interest, and some of the scientists that were involved in this collected seeds from the trees that were growing and distributed them around the world. And they were pretty widely planted. This would represent some of the offspring from this sort of distribution. The foliage, which you can probably see up above, is unusual in that it's needle-like, like an evergreen, but it is deciduous, and the tree sheds it every fall, and it is now recovering its foliage for the summer season. The fossil remains of these things were widely distributed, so this metasequoia used to live on this continent, and some of the remains have been as far removed as Ellesmere Island in the Canadian Arctic, and also in the Badlands of South Dakota. The tree, when planted, has grown rapidly, and this one we're judging is maybe 50 feet tall, and it might actually become 100 feet tall as it matures. The actual redwood trees and the sequoia trees in California are related to this tree. They have been very desirable for lumbering, to the extent that have, I think, been declared an endangered species. This tree, it was thought, would perhaps be a substitute for that, and so some were planted in the anticipation of harvesting a timber crop. That didn't work out. The wood is not very useful for anything. When the tree matures, it may be as high as 100 or 150 feet, some people say, and the butt of the tree at the bottom on fully mature trees has been noticed to be 6 feet in diameter. So this is a kind of an adolescent of the type. And at the bottom, the tree forms buttresses, of which you see some examples coming out here now. And these buttresses, I presume, act as stabilizers when you have a tree that's 100 or 150 feet high. it's got to have a good grip on the ground around it, and the buttresses help to do that. So this is the Metasequoia, or dawn redwood, and it's a gift to us from China. What I want to look at here is the eastern wahoo, and the thing that has gathered the attention of some of us here is the peculiar reticulated pattern of the bark. This is rather striking, and is not something that I've seen in the published examples of this, although it always has a pattern, but not as pronounced as this. The eastern wahoo is related to the burning bush, and in fact is called the burning bush. It's related to that one, and it is the Euonymus atropurpureus. Allegedly, this thing should have a profusion of red flowers, but I am advised that this one has failed us in at least several years. The tree is interesting in that the Indians used the bark as a medicinal. The bark has a potential to purge one if you swallow it, and purgation was thought to be a useful medical modality. The early white settlers also used it for this purpose, but fortunately purging has become a not too favored means of medical treatment, and that property is now regarded as toxicity and as a poison. So this is the wahoo, the eastern wahoo. Wahoo is a Dakota Indian term, and I've seen several interpretations of it. The simplest one was that it just meant a tree. Wahoo, of course, has been widely adopted elsewhere because there's a game fish called a wahoo. The Cleveland baseball team used to have a chief wahoo that was their symbol before that became politically incorrect. And I think wahoo has also been used as a pejorative term in some senses. So this is an interesting tree, eastern wahoo, and it is also regarded as a burning bush. This is Ginkgo biloba, and this is my very favorite tree in the entire woods here. This is a tree with a remarkable history. There are fossil remains of the ancestors of this going back 290 million years. And the tree seemed to evolve a little bit over the next 100 million years or so. But about 170 million years ago, it seemed to settle down genetically. And the tree at that time apparently was just about the same as the tree that we see here today. Not that this one is that old, but the type of tree. This also is an import from China, like the kids' toys in your electronic gear. We've got a gift here from the Kingdom of China, and the tree never disappeared like the Metasequoia. It was always fancied in the Far East and was raised as a decorative tree in China and also in Japan and Korea. And so it was never entirely lost, but it has become much more popular in recent years. The first thing that I learned about ginkgos was that this tree is so durable it can stand the rigors of urban life. And so it was a good tree to plant in the city where it would resist rot, disease, motor fumes, and other sorts of bad influences. And like your Timex watch, it would take a licking and keep on ticking. The tree is a slow-growing tree, and it is long-lived because it is so resistant to disease and other bad influences. But some of these trees are alleged to be as old as 2,000 years old, so they are indeed very, very durable. One testimony to the sturdiness of this tree is the fact that there were 6 of these trees which were within 1 or 2 kilometers of the epicenter of the atom bomb explosion in Hiroshima. All the vegetation in that immediate area was totally incinerated, and the ginkgo trees got a pretty bad burn from it. But in due course, they came back, and it is, I understand that there is now a park in Hiroshima featuring these 6 surviving ginkgo trees, and exhibited as a testimony to the resilience of the tree, obviously, and the Japanese people. There's several interesting things about this tree. There are boy trees and girl trees. And the girl trees are not very popular because they smell bad. The reason they smell bad is butyric acid, which their ovaries secrete. And what function this has except to drive away interested parties, I don't know. But the smell offends people, and what we have here is a male tree which is not odoriferous. The males, of course, put out pollen, which fertilizes the smelly eggs in the females, and it is not smelly, but it is allergenic, and it's alleged by those who practice allergy to be an extremely allergenic pollen, maybe the same order as ragweed. Fortunately, there aren't very many ginkgo trees around, so the load of pollen which you would experience from this is not very great. The other thing that's interesting in the allergic connection is that apparently there is something about the bark or the wood or something that cross-reacts with poison ivy. So if you are sensitive to poison ivy and you get intimate with a ginkgo tree, you might get a rash, which is indistinguishable from poison ivy. I guess the one thing that I would suggest is that with as long a history as this tree has, this tree here may well be here long after Friendship Village has disappeared. And in fact, one wonders how they will deal with global warming. The tree has an amazingly complex genetic pattern. The human beings, we human beings, sort of view ourselves as the epitome of evolution, but we have a very modest gene complement compared to the ginkgo. Ours runs to about 3 billion, and the ginkgo runs to about 10 billion. So I'm wondering if somewhere imposed in this extremely luxurious collection of genes that this tree possesses is the one for the fountain of youth. Perhaps this will be the fountain of youth tree.